right your way.
Several times.
For academic affairs.
Joe?
Tim? Executive Director of Enrollment Service.
Yeah, they'll come.
Very nice.
I didn't have too much.
Yes, sir.
I didn't go down. I was afraid that something happened.
I missed you on the outside. Good seeing you. We're going to build roads for Morehead, or
Governor, that's the chair. I have a number of regents here today. I'll introduce them at this time, but I'll introduce them later. Delighted that several of the regents could be, and as the day unfolds, by the way, we'll have most of our regents. In fact, we could have all 10 regents here by 11:30 this morning. We have several of our people from the General Assembly here today, and they'll be joining us as the day unfolds, and so we'll have quite a group by 11:30 this morning. I'm pleased, of course, to have a number of people from the community. It really is a special day, Governor, for us, and we're particularly grateful because I know you just got back from London last night, and having just come back from London a couple of weeks, so that's why I gave you your black cup of coffee, and if you need another one, why just wave or something. We thought we'd do kind of a Chief Officer of the Commonwealth presentation this morning. So it's my privilege then to brief you in the few minutes that we have on some information about Morehead State University, simply to get you better acquainted with the university and to understand some of the problems that we're dealing with at the present time. I'm sure you know that in all of the universities in Kentucky, we're all growing. But the unique thing about Morehead State University is our rapidity of growth. You'll notice that in 1985 we had a head count of 5,695 students. That began to change by 3%, by 10%, by 14%, and this year, depending on enrollment this week, we could experience another 9% growth. We've gone from 5,695 students to something in the neighborhood of 8,000 students in 5 years. In fact, the increase since the fall of 1985, if we achieve the 8,000 goal this fall, we will have grown 41%. Growth always creates problems, but the rapidity of growth tends to create more problems. And one of the
Excuse me, that's in 4 academic years.
that's true.
Average.
Right. We're impacted in a lot of ways. One of the ways that we're impacted is in our residence hall occupancy, because there is a relationship between enrollment and the number of students who want to stay in a residence hall. That's changed over the years. There was a period in the 70s where it was not a popular thing to do to stay in residence halls, and now it's extremely popular. And because of the nature of our city, where we have limited residence capability in the city, the demand is even greater on us. Again, you'll notice that in 1985, we housed 2,551 students in our residence halls. We have 13 residence halls. Then all of a sudden that began to grow, and you'll see that we increased by 25% in 1987, we increased by 20% in 1988, and we're projecting an 11% increase this fall in our residence halls. We will have somewhere between 3,950 students and 4,000 students housed in our residence halls by the end of this week. Again, the significant fact is that since the fall of 1985, our residence hall occupancy has increased by 57%. Now, we have a capacity, a design capacity or a normal capacity that would set in about there of 3,550. So you notice that in 88, last fall, we exceeded our capacity. We did that by beginning to double up in some of the rooms in our residence halls. Obviously, if we're going to house 4,000 students, or nearly 4,000 students, then that means, of course, that we're going to be doubling up on some of our occupancy. We do that by adding a bunk bed. We do that by adding a bed in a suite of rooms. We tried to do that sensitively, and we obviously are wanting the very best of housing accommodations for our students. But the simple choice is do we house them the best we can, or do we turn them away? We think it's better to house them the best that we can. The truth of the matter is we need 450 beds this fall. Right now, we need another 450 beds. You saw it coming, and you saw it coming, and that's why when I came to you prior to the last legislative session, that you recommended that we renovate 2 of our halls. And we are in the process, and you're going to see both of them this morning. We are in the process of renovating Fields Hall. We are in the process of designing, and with your help and Rogers Wells' help, we've expedited both of those projects to the point now that we're in stage C for Thompson Hall. That means that we're right on schedule. We'll be letting a contract just in time that when we finish Fields, theoretically we'll move the students out of Fields and put them in, or out of Thompson and put them in Fields, and we'll come right in behind and start renovating Thompson. You know, we need them today. We're moving as quickly as all of us can move them to accomplish that objective. Our Board of Regents, in their request to the Council, has requested additional funding for further renovation. We have at least one other residence hall that's available for renovation, and we're looking at the possibility of some new construction as well down in the next several years to accommodate this growing student body and to accommodate and to better, frankly, house our students at Morehead State University. Our own streets is what they would have looked like, and I think they're significant. From the standpoint of active alumni, in 1985, same period of time, we had 839 active alumni. Over this same period, we now have 2,054 active alumni, or we've had an increase of 144% in active alumni. The same would be true in private giving.
Well, what is active alumni?
Active alumni means
they make contributions on a
that's
regular
right.
basis.
They make a contribution to us each year, and they consider themselves full participants in the Alumni Association. Chart for 85, it would show that in 1985 we were receiving $450,000 in private money, and last year we received $778,506 actually private money, or an increase of 73%. I mention those because along with this growth, we have built a tremendous base of interest and support from our Alumni Association. People are feeling good about where are they coming from. The Council for Higher Education establishes our primary service region. And our primary service region, I'm sure you know, is the 22 counties in eastern Kentucky. You can think seven congressional districts. all of these counties are in Appalachia, are officially classified as Appalachian counties. As you know, in the 7th District, we Chandler and Bob Martin, when he was in the State Department of Education. And I traveled greatly in eastern Kentucky for a couple of years as a member of the State Department. And then I came back here in '60 and left in '71, and then I came back 2 years ago. So I know something about eastern Kentucky over a long period of time, something like what's out there today. And that's, of course, why our enrollment is growing, and that's why 70% of our students are coming from the 22 counties of eastern Kentucky. 84% of our students come from the Commonwealth, so we're principally serving Kentucky. Other states, and I'm particularly pleased that we bring in the international student to help to bring an international flavor to our diversity. We also serve this region. Aside from having students come to the university, we also take the university to the people. We have a consortium with Pikeville College down in Pike County, private liberal arts college. We have a fine relationship with them and a formal consortium. We have 2+2 programs with the 3 community colleges in our area, Prestonburg, Ashland, and Maysville. We have many people. You know that the highest unemployment rate, unfortunately, in the state is in some of those counties. Elliott County seems to come to the top of every list. We went in there and offered GED, GED preparation, GED. We've had several meetings recently, and they're looking to us to provide the staff development and training for them, for the 250 professionals that they will have. And also, it's our intention and their intention to have us be the primary deliverer of instructional programs to the inmates. And so that's selected high schools throughout eastern Kentucky. So we are very substantial of this region is in large part. We awarded last year $14 million of student financial aid. $14 million. Now that's made up of federal, state, and institutional dollars.
Loans or grants?
Well, these would be all forms of financial aid, guaranteed loans, scholarships, grants, the whole range through your college assistance program. But I know you're pleased that we've made it possible for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of young men and women from eastern Kentucky that could not have gone to school. They just simply did not have the capacity, financial capacity, to go anywhere. But we made it possible for them to come to Morehead State, at Morehead State University. I wanted to show you that at Morehead, and this differs by each institution slightly, and certainly the regionals are different than the 2 research universities. But at Morehead State, during this biennium, a student pays almost 26% of his education. And of course the state pays almost 70% of the cost of the education of our students. And the other about 4%, the difference between that and 100%, of course, is some miscellaneous income that we receive that makes up 100% of our budget. But that has increased over the period of 10 years. These are 5 biennia or 10 years. The students' share of their education at Morehead State has gone from 19.2 to 25.8. Just a modest, almost a continuous incline in the proportional share that the students are bearing of the cost of their education.
Does that include the tuition cost in relation to total dollars?
Yes,
because I researched that somewhat, and I looked at a lot of numbers, and quite frankly, I wasn't aware. Well, I think this is a comparison of tuition and fees as it relates to state contribution.
That's right. That's what this is.
But not to total contribution.
Our total operating budget in 89.90 is $42.3 million, education in general.
Cost of, that's not a cost of education, that's a proportion of the
That's
dollars
really a-
available.
Right, it is a proportion of the whole, of the total of which the students fund.
Total university budget, 42 point something million.
42.3, E and G. Now I'm differentiating between in that percentage because we don't receive a state appropriation to support those type activities.
Well, yeah, but that's what, and I need to understand this, I don't want to belabor the point, but the total cost of a student's education for each academic year at this institution, according to tuition fees, according to the statistics I've looked at.
Governor, I think that would be less at other institutions. UT or U of L has a number of other responsibilities. If you go on a continuum from a community college, which is primarily instruction, to University of Kentucky, which has many more responsibilities, I think that number you would see a change in that relationship because there's more research.
In fact, I think that, I talked with my colleagues of the regionals, and they're all within about 1% of this. All the regionals are very close to 24, 25, 26%. The regionals are, but that is not true, I know, of the two research universities. And where we're going to be going, and I'll tell you a little bit about the university in a different way. First of all, the university owns in excess of 1,000 acres. We own or operate 144 buildings. We occupy 2,600,000 square foot of floor space. Now, coming back to just the main part of the campus, which we're on today, this campus is just under 500 acres. So 500 acres is our core campus here in Morehead. You're familiar, of course, with Old Route 60 and major east-west thoroughfare. It's our main street downtown. And so you can see that the campus basically parallels Old 60 and lays in this city also east and west.
Oh, is that what? Sure. Well, as I said, I'm sure I've got that.
Get into some of the neatest things that we have. Carter County or neighboring county. Where are you from? Another Carter County. You got a lot of Carter County people. Yeah, you got a lot. You got a bias toward Carter.
Congratulations. What are you going to major? What do you major?
Chantel.
Hello, how are you? Where are you from?
Not parents.
Anyway, thank you.
Well, thank you. We're glad to see all the things that are happening around the university that are making it a better place for all of us and for everyone to live there. I understand that. Well, getting back in touch with you, I'm sure.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for saying hello to me. Oh,
They'll go on to the church.
Yeah, we'll drive over to him. Well, we'll drive over.
Do the camera now.
And I would buy things $5 and $10. So she would have enough gas to get home. She lives about an hour away in her old pickup. And in fact, if we didn't buy them, she couldn't get home. I mean, it was that desperate at times. And her work now is shown all around the United States.
By helping her market her product, better price her product.
Artistically and monetarily.
I said this morning, you know, that who would expect an art department really to be an economic development, but there's no better example of an academic department making an economic impact in our region. And these creative people have done this.
We have a twofold approach. We have the collection here, which is permanent, which validates what they're doing. It shows it and tells them we have a unique project, thanks to Dr. Brody. We have our own salesperson. And we're selling folk art wholesale around the country to galleries. We have never advertised, they've never called anyone, they've called us. Last year, we sold, Adrian was doing this, $17,000 worth. From January to July, we sold about $25,000, but more than double in half a year. From
Top of the steps at Thompson Hall. Good to go.
These are the residents of Thompson Hall.
Looks like you have a few of them right here that are living a fairly good life this morning. Then on the soft cold. So nice to see you. Thank you for saying hello. Appreciate that. Where are you from? Anderson County, Lawrenceburg. How are you? Where are you from? Also from Lawrenceburg. You brought her with you. How are you, sir? Nice to see you. Where are you from? You got some recommendations? No, I said, show you down 109.
That's what I told Fat Boy
Right here.
Things have changed a lot.
everything else. Christ was in the Garden of Olives. He spent at least 4.5 hours just on your life alone. What to say? Jesus said Moses.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's our pleasure to welcome each and every one of you to this special occasion, but it's a very special privilege to welcome the Governor and members of the General Assembly and members of our Board of Regents to this very historic place this morning. Before I present Governor Wilkinson for his comments, I'm pleased to recognize some special guests in the audience, and I wonder if you might stand as a group and then we will greet you. First, from the General Assembly, State Senator Woody May of Morgan County, State Representative Walter Blevins of Morehead, State Representative Rocky Atkins of Sandy Hook, Minority Floor Leader of the House, Representative Bill Strong of Haas, express our appreciation. Two hats as our Student Government President and our Student Regent, H.B. Gillum of Olive Hill. Would you please greet them? Representative Klein is coming up the sidewalk. This is a special day for Morehead State University. A very distinguished guest, and let me present to you Governor of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, the Honorable Wallace Wilkinson. Governor Wilkinson.
President Grody, thank you very much. Members of the Board of Regents, legislators, be particularly kind this morning, ladies and gentlemen, to those legislators that are here. They have the money. Embrace them. Faculty, staff, students, and Dr. Cox. This is a particularly exciting time for Morehead. I can sense it this morning in going through the hall where the students are registering. You begin this school year having experienced a 40% increase in enrollment, and you can just sense that excitement all over the campus. I think it's correct to say, Mr. President, that Morehead now is the fastest growing university in the Commonwealth. That's what I was told. And most of the increase in enrollment has come from the 22 county area, which is your service region, so to speak, in eastern Kentucky. So one would conclude from that you are indeed carrying out your mission as Kentucky's Mountain University. As I toured campus today, I witnessed the eagerness on campus to get the new year started. And I could not help but think that just as eager as these students and the faculty in this campus is to begin the new school year, I'm eager to move ahead with the task of rebuilding Kentucky's schools. What we do with our opportunity to fundamentally change the way we educate children in Kentucky will affect our education at every level particularly higher education. I had the opportunity to participate in the Oxford International Roundtable on Education Reform last week in Oxford, England. I made the comment earlier this morning that we've changed what people are saying and thinking about education in Kentucky. And it makes no difference whether we are in Oxford or whether we are in Frankfurt. Those that talk about Kentucky education today are talking about the innovation and the excitement that may come out of this task that lies ahead of us. Educators and policymakers from around the world met at Oxford University. We had a week-long discussion of issues and innovations in education, things that are going on all across the world. I don't mind to tell you, however, that I want to talk to those engineers about that cost, but we're going to get the job done. The renovation of Fields Hall will provide needed dormitory space for Murray State University. The $3 million included in the current budget is an investment not only in the quality of life, but in the history of Morehead as well. I think that 4 showers, was it, for 50 students? Is that correct? Needs to be corrected. Well, Mrs. William J. Fields was the first woman member of the Board of Regents at Murray State University. And I'm sure that Mrs. Fields and her husband, Governor Fields, or as you may know him, Gene, when I first came to Olive Hill, as Honest Bill from Olive Hill, would be proud of this project and would be proud of this university. And I learned something this morning that particularly intrigued me. 80% of this year's record enrollment of 8,000 at this university are students from eastern Kentucky, primarily the 7th Congressional District. Morehead is showing the way. Thank you, trustees. For all you do on behalf of this university and also the faculty, and thank you for this invitation today, Mr. President.
The governor has agreed to come to the podium to answer questions for just a few minutes. But before he does so, I want to say to all of you that the Fields Hall renovation project, as well as the Thompson Hall renovation project that is coming right behind this one, was included in the governor's executive bill. It was approved by our friends in the General Assembly. It was signed into law by this governor. It authorized our Board of Regents to approve this project and to sell bonds to be retired by the revenue that we will generate with the occupancy of this beautiful, beautiful facility. Many of you in this audience stayed in Fields Hall when you were here as a student, or you had family or friends that lived in Fields Hall or Thompson Hall. And it's going to be a showplace. In May of 1990, when this project is finished, it will have one of the contemporary arrangements for student housing, which we call the cluster concept. And it will not only remain a beautiful building architecturally, but it will provide more adequate and comfortable housing for our students for years to come. And so this is indeed a historic day when we officially commit ourselves to the completion of this project. And I'm grateful to all of you that made that possible. And I know I speak for students next year and for years to come, how grateful they're going to be, because this is going to be one of the most convenient residence halls on this campus. No doubt we'll have the longest waiting list for students wanting to live in it while they learn and study here at the university. Governor Wilkinson, I understand that you will answer some questions.
I think it's as important as any education issue facing us at the moment. And yes, I do intend to introduce legislation that would accomplish that. We haven't determined precisely yet what that threshold level ought to be, but the answer, I think, is yes. We want to get to a point where we can guarantee at least 14 years of education in this Commonwealth, and I will introduce that legislation.
Who have you talked to develop this? I assume you don't have a cost estimate on it yet.
Well, before a cost estimate can be determined, we have to first determine what the income threshold level would be. We know for ourselves have developed comprehensive plans, which is either in the process or will be shortly in the process of being recommended in terms of priority items by the Council on Higher Education. So yes, there is a process in place. I think it is working well, and we'll be receiving those recommendations, if we haven't already received some of them, by November 15. This growth, as well as anyone could have managed. There was an excitement this morning demonstrated by the members of the student body that I had an opportunity to talk with. I think that it gives testimony to that. I think faculty and staff, at least those that I've had the pleasure and opportunity to meet this morning, and in terms of whatever input he wanted from me with respect to that specific game, that I saw nothing wrong with it, and as far as I was concerned, we could proceed with it. Now that doesn't mean he came to me to ask permission about it. He came to me to ask what I thought about it, and I told him I thought it was all right, and as far as I was concerned, he could proceed with the NFL game. That has nothing to do. Yes, I think they are. I think it was interesting to me to see the article this morning about the University of Kentucky and again the Herald Leader. We cannot be all things to all people. And it seems to me that the institutions of higher learning in the state have to determine what their niche is, what they're good at, and try to be better at that than anybody is. And yes, I think the side, from my side, it certainly is. I suppose you'd have to ask them from their side, but insofar as I can determine at this moment, I have an expert what this university is doing in serving its primary service area. And